Hey there, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading, wanting to thank you for stopping by to watch this interview and also make it clear to you that this is not a paid for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies have been identified as opportunities for investment that could provide an above average return on our investment. This is our opportunity to get to know management, to understand the vision for the company, the strategy they plan to implement, and execute to achieve that vision for the company. So if you learn anything here today and you enjoyed the interview, please do us a favor and subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with another CEO interview, and I am very pleased to have this gentleman. He's got some very exciting stuff going on. He's got actually, when you look at it, you almost would say, geez, what do these guys actually really do? But they do a lot. They do a lot, but it may seem haphazard, but it's actually very, very strategic. So I want to thank you, Dennis Calvert, for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Biolargo. The ticker symbol is BLGO, and that is on the OTC exchange
right
at this particular point in time. But we can talk about that in a little bit. Dennis, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
You got some exciting stuff going on, man. You just announced two pretty strong quarters in a row, right?
Yeah, we think it's going to keep going. How's that?
We'll talk if you're not familiar with the Biolargo name, I would say the biggest thing that in at least in my opinion, in my view, that Biolargo is working on is if you haven't heard of this thing called PFAS, PFAS, it's
big deal.
What is it? The never dying
forever chemicals.
For forever chemical, right? The forever chemical that doesn't go away, that is in our water system.
Oh, it's more than that. It's in your body. It's in soil. It's in the polar ice caps. I mean, it's crazy. And these chemistries were used to make nonstick coatings for about 40 years. And they're designed to withstand the natural degradation of nature. And so it turns out, in hindsight, of course, right, these little bitty molecules of fluorine compounds, PFAS, when you accumulate them in nature and they won't biodegrade, they can cause real problems with the human body and with life. And so they're linked to cancer and birth defects now. And it's clearly the contaminant of the decade. And some people are saying maybe the century. I mean, it is unbelievable. And there's a movie called Dark Waters. And I always say you should, if you don't know, watch the movie because it's on Netflix, I'm pretty sure. And it's a great show that chronicles the attorney who takes on big business like DuPont and 3M. Those are big names. There's a bunch, though. There's like 20 or 30 major manufacturers around the world. And they use these chemistries to make things like Teflon and Scotch Guard for carpets, and stuff is everywhere. And it's in latex gloves and food packaging and chocolate icing for birthday cakes. I mean, it's just crazy. And of course, it's a big part of the oil and gas industry. It's a big part of the manufacturing of chemicals. Do you know that every major pesticide, not every, I shouldn't say that way, many of the major pesticides have PFAS in them? You're spraying them all over your garden. It's crazy, right? And it just permeates the world. And now, of course, everybody recognizes it's got these links to cancer and birth defects. And so the water industry estimates it to be about a $60 billion current market opportunity. But the regulations are getting so tight that they're down into the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 parts per trillion measurements. And what that means is like a grain of sand or two in an Olympic-sized swimming pool is too much. And if you're measuring that low, it means that it's going to impact everybody. And so big businesses, I mean, this is big business. And we're a little ahead of the curve, by the way, which is awesome because we got to innovate this solution starting about 3 years ago. And we just got our first customer And, and what we learned is that, of course, we have these great talent here, and we got a great innovation. What we learned is we need to present a solution, not a widget, right? Bring a complete solution to a customer. And we also learned that the projects are much bigger than we ever thought. And so the first one we're estimating will come in over the course of the next year or so at about 7.5 million in revenue. And that will likely run 10 years or more. I mean, think of it like a super fund cleanup, right? That's what we're talking about. And these industrial sites and municipal sites and well water and discharge water and manufacturing sites have this massive accumulation that creates a toxic hazard. And now the government's telling us that it's a hazmat. I mean, so we just scratching the surface, and we're in it to win it on this one.
Yeah. So you're talking about 60, did you say 60 billion is the addressable market on this?
That's what they say. Yeah. I mean, people, every state's not regulating it yet, but it's coming fast. And drinking water for sure. Look, here's the way to think about it. Regardless of what the regs say, if you got a big contamination site with a bunch of PFAS and everybody's getting sued all over the world, I think you're going to clean it up. I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter but the regs are tightening so tight. And the reason there's a lot of squawking going on, which is is typical, right, is that the municipal clients, that's ratepayer supported suppliers of water, right? So they're municipal. That means they charge the ratepayer, and the commission allows them to pass the cost along to the ratepayer, right?
Right.
Well, these agencies are going crazy because the regs are so tight. It means these massive infrastructure requirements to upgrade and clean up the way they need to be able to sell water that's essentially free of PFAS. And so we've got a whole program rolling out with our first customer, of course, in hand, and a whole pipeline behind it. National sales force being set up through reps and channel partners. And we think we've got like 45 to 50 states now covered. And we've got 3 demo units that we're putting out in the field for commercial trials. And so we're on a run here, right?
So let's talk about the actual product itself, right? So because there are a lot of people that are trying to attack the PFAS problem.
Well, there's a lot of competition. Yeah. The way I'd say it is there's everybody and your mother's competing. I mean, it's crazy. And so it's hard to distinguish yourself. And there's some big companies with big names, right? Right. So how does a little guy, right? Biolargo is still an emerging company in so many ways, and yet we're kind of kicking butt. So we're proud of it. Okay. But how do you compete with a multi-billion-dollar global multinational, right?
Right.
And the answer is it starts with 2 things, I think. One is a technology advantage. Okay, that's number 1. And number 2 is this willingness to treat a customer in such a way that looks out for them first. I mean, I hate to make it sound so simple, but you serve first. You're not here to be served. You're here to serve. Okay. And that comes through loud and clear in the way we approach the business. To give you an example, our engineers, have 20 and 30 year careers. We got a whole team. We had that group join us about 4 years ago. They were senior technologists and skunk work providers at a 55,000 man firm. They've been everywhere. I asked Randy Moore, heads up our engineering group. I said, how many projects have you worked on? He goes, what do you mean, like ever? I go, ever. 4,000. Like, okay. So, and then I asked one time, how many destruction projects have you done? Destroying something, 800. Right. I mean, it's crazy, right? So they are bona fide experts.
Right.
We are the expert. Somebody says, I had a shareholder the other day says, well, have you called an expert? And I'm like, we are the expert, brother. It's like, no. We got them sitting over here. And so our people can write the book. Okay. Now, the point of all that is when you go into the marketplace, we bring that unique perspective. And I've learned so much from them because I've never seen a business, and I'm so proud to be part of it, where the closing process with a customer in that space, it goes like this. We help them identify the target.
Yeah.
Fine. And we peel the onion and peel the onion and peel the onion. And then we coach and we teach and we share and we educate. And then we assist in redefining a target that's financially feasible, practically from a technology perspective, low risk, and define it in such a way that the customer can say, okay, I got it, right? I got it. Okay. And then you budget it, right? When you do it that way, at the end of that process, you know what happens? Customer says, hey, Dennis, how do we get going? I've never seen anything like it. I mean, we almost never even have to ask for the order. They ask us for the order. And that's because we've invested so much time and energy in the preparation. Now, it is slower. I'll tell you, it's slower because what happens is you're doing a lot of work on the prep side to be able to offer a bona fide, specific target and essentially a custom solution. One of the things you learn in the water business is each situation is unique. I don't care what you say. The water is not water is not water. It's like, no. There's all kinds of stuff in this water. And each presents a different unique challenge. And then you have technology choices. So we view the innovation as a tool in the toolkit. It's not the toolkit. It's a tool in the toolkit. And then what you present is a solution that includes a series of tools, which some of our tools are really awesome. So that's how you win, right? We always say, if our tools are not the right tools, we'll get you the right tools. And if they're not available in the world, we'll invent them. Okay, so what's happening for us is because of that commitment and the idea that, in the industry, for the water industry, they often say, there's a slogan they use. Water is a global industry that's practiced locally. Okay, right? So what does that mean? It means that you have standardized components. Those are tools in a toolkit. But when you put them into work, they're all custom, right? And most companies don't take the time. It's hard. It's more difficult. It's like, look, that's a little slower, right? But what happens is the customers absolutely love it because somebody's not trying to sell them a freaking widget. Listen, the widget, plug the widget in, it's going to work. No, it doesn't work that way. That's not the way it works. Especially when it comes to something so critical like PFAS and this, linked to cancer, birth defects, all this really critical. And this is a hazmat. So our innovation is unique because it checks boxes that others don't check. I mean, it's that simple. And the way to think about it is, in the PFAS world, there's other products that can take the PFAS out of the water. So it's not like you're saying nobody else's works. That's not true. They do work. They're just really burdensome, meaning they're expensive, or their waste stream is astronomically problematic, or they can take it to a certain level, but they can't get all the way home. And so where we step in is we say, look, we're available in all different types of water. We're willing to customize the solution to your situation. We have that skill in-house. We know exactly how to customize to make sure it's going to work for you. That's what we do. And then our footprint after the fact is a fraction, and we can bring it all the way to a non-detect status, right? And that's a combination that's very rare. And when you go into the marketplace and you really peel that onion on all those details, there's not anything that matches up. And so the incumbents, so I'll give you an example. This first customer is a big industrial site, and they're under an EPA mandate, okay? An EPA mandate means they got to solve this thing. Right. So Big Brother's watching. All right. And so we were recruited in through a channel partner who'd watched us position and grow and find our way into the marketplace. And they called up one day and said, hey, Dennis, congratulations. It looks like you're ready for market. And I said, yeah, I think we are. We're really close. He says, well, we think so too, based on all the things you've done. We said, yeah, it's really cool. That's about 3 years of work. He said, well, we got a customer. You talk about that. You want to get my attention? Hey, Dennis, we got a customer.
Right.
Okay. And so I say, okay, all hands on deck. What you got, right? And they said, we think that your strategy is the right one. Okay. Now, here's the lesson. The person that's calling us is a technical expert. This is not your buddy. Okay. This is a guy who knows what he's doing. And he's picking us not because we're friends. He's picking us because he understands the value proposition technically. So then it all becomes technology, right? From that moment, for the next 6 calls, it's peeling back the onion on the solution. And at the end, they came back to us and said, we're going to recommend to our client they buy your solution. Now that's how it goes. And the reason I tell that long story is because that process is so different than walking in the door and trying to sell a widget. It doesn't happen. Okay. And so we're in a spot now where we've positioned ourselves as experts. We have the real bona fide talent, and we got a tool that's really special. And as a result, we got a pipeline that'll choke a horse. I mean, it is, and again, we don't use these numbers to try and, have a grand illusion of where it goes. I mean, there's a practical limit, but it's well over $100 million worth of projects. Okay, projects. And the project cycles are probably 6 and 9 and 12 months before you get to full scale. So they don't go fast. And some of those will fall off, but they're expanding exponentially because we now have a national Salesforce presence in place, right? And the other thing is, I get calls a lot from people that say, hey, I know a guy who's got a PFAS problem. I'm like, dude, there's 1,000 people with PFAS problems. I mean, that's not the deal. And the question is not, can you find them? It's who's on the other side of the equation has the technical expertise to understand our value proposition, because it is super technical stuff, right? And that's where we win. And I always say, when we get to the technology conversation, we win. We win, okay? But you got to get to that level of expertise to have sell-in, especially with something so technical. So in the water business, it's very common for companies like ours to partner through what we call channel partners or reps, right? And a little both. Channel partner is like an industry specialist. A rep is a little broader, but geographically focused. They have their own things that they offer, right? But the people we're contracting with have been doing this for 10 and 20 years. These are technically special people. They live this industry and they know every customer. They're not going to go see if I can find a customer. They call up and say, I already know 20. And so then the question that we go through in the qualification of that relationship is, they say, well, where are you at in terms of readiness? We say, well, we're ready for market. We got our first customer. Well, have you put in 1,000 gallon a minute system? No. Okay. I mean, you got to get with me, right? The answer is it starts here and it grows. And then eventually you have 2 reference sites and then 5 and all that. And that's what we're in that stage right now, where we've got our first custom engagement, where we're designing a custom solution. We got 3 units in the field. We got data on, I don't know, probably 10 clients or something, right? Something like that. And we've got enough proof of claim to be able to go in and provide essentially guaranteed performance, right? And so for some clients, that level of assurance is sufficient. For others, like public agencies, they're going to wait. They're going to wait for the industrial side to show more adoption before they're going to jump in, because they have a duty to the public agency and public taxpayer funds to not take technology risk in an early stage, especially the bigger they are. Now, we've got some municipal clients that can be early adopters. And I think one of the reasons that's so, Tim, is what we present in that spot is this technology thesis that not anybody, but anybody like a 7th grader, 5th grader, a 5th grader can understand, right? And we say, how's that work, right? Well, okay, so we have an electric cell, and in that cell, there's a current, electric current. There's a plus and a minus, right? Water flows through, and the PFAS is in the water, and it has a charge. So it's going to be naturally attracted to its opposite charge. How's that? Opposites attract, right? And as it does so, it's pulled to the side of an electrode, and there's a membrane. And that membrane is specially designed to trap the PFAS. And all the other salts can flow through, right? So what we've done is we've created an apparatus that allows for what we call selective extraction.
So it actually identifies between, like, because there's good minerals and good stuff that's in the water, right?
Yeah.
You're not taking any of the good stuff out. You're just taking the PFAS out.
Bingo. And so then the footprint for the waste stream is 1/1000th of the competition. So our first account, which is this big industrial site, actually deployed carbon systems. It's killing them. I mean, he said like every 2 weeks, they got 10 trucks coming in to pick up all the carbon. I mean, it's like it's killing them. And it's this massive load of waste, and it's pulled out all the stuff they want to keep in the water, right? Now, and each contaminant stream has its own unique constituents. So like minerals and right things that you got to manage. That's where the custom work comes in. If you sell a widget to a customer that has a unique problem set and you haven't dealt with that, it's going to fail. Right. So that's the failures that you can't tolerate in the market. And it takes real expertise to understand that. That's why it's so custom, right? So the system is it is what it is. I mean, I look at it and I go, look, a fifth grader understands this. Okay. Charge, per act, fly paper. And technologists laugh at me, right? Because they're like, well, it's a little more complicated. And I go, yeah, of course it is, right? It's got art. The art is the flow and the current and the monitoring and the useful life and the washing and the cleaning and the cycling. And there's a million technical things going on in that. So it's not like it's not like it came out of the sandbox. Okay. It's a really fine piece of art. However, the concept is so basic, and that issue attracts customers because they get it. It's like, okay, I got it. I wish I'd thought of that. I'm like, yeah, right. I wish I'd thought of that. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. So that's one.
That's one of we call them catalysts. It's one of the major catalysts in the company. Okay. That has a chance to take us to the promised land and beyond. And it is an asset. Right now it's being operated fully under the engineering firm. And we think it'll probably become its own business unit. But remember, we're a small company, so everything's so intimate, right? Everybody's involved in everything. But the reason you might do your own setup as a dedicated unit is to attract significant external capital. And therein lies sort of the strategy thing that we've deployed as a company, because some of our assets.
Let's dive into that. What is the strategy as the company? Let's talk about that.
Well, yeah. So again, we started almost 15 years ago. I can't believe it. It's like a whole career, and so many, war stories, which we won't kill you with, but so many war stories of overcoming the challenge, right? I mean, that's, the companies that they always say, the companies that win in this journey make fewer mistakes and they survive the knocks. I mean, it's so hard to do. And now, of course, having done so much, people say, I've got this great innovation and I'm going to go change the world. I'm thinking, do you have any idea what you're signing up for? Because I do. I mean, it's like, whoa. And so what you learn is a bunch of things, right? You learn, number one, you got to do all the work yourself, right? You got to do all the work. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to take it all the way through a first commercial adoption at minimum. You can't say, hey, and here it is, everybody's going to buy it. You have to prove they're going to buy it. It's very difficult to do. And then our thesis is really simple. We invent it, we prove it up, we get it through that first adoption, and then we make the deal. And we don't make the deal before. Why? Because the deal you'll make before, you're not going to want to do.
Right.
We don't have any customers. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard it. Big company. We don't have any customers. I'm like, okay, you're going to make me do all the work. Okay, got it. Or you're not through FDA yet. Okay, I got to get through FDA like clear, right? Or whatever. And the odor is a good example, right? Where we took it all the way through, we went vertical, and we became specialists in the equipment and the design and the implementation and the manufacture of 4 different techniques and all the safety profile. And oh my God, it's 8 years of work and a lot of money. And then what that does for you is it positions you now as true expert. You're a true expert, able to present a complete solution that's tried and true at every level. And once you've done that, then you can make a deal like we've done with the Poof product, right? So, and that's a great example of the business model. Okay, so let's step back, invent it, prove it up, do all the work, find your first commercial adoption, then make the deal. Okay, so the way we architect that in the company is a standard architecture. When we find something we think can be its own business, like PFAS or odor control, we set it up in a license to the subsidiary, and that license typically is a 6% royalty. That's essentially going to say to somebody that might come in and get involved, the corporate office is relying upon equity and 6% of cash flow. Okay, and what it does is it sets up a scenario where outside investors can come and invest in these projects. They can be a partner in the odor control. They can be a partner in a consumer product. They can be a partner in a PFAS rollout for a sector. If somebody came, I want to do mining. I want to do beverages. I want to do municipal water. I can segment all those because I have a business model that tells a partner exactly how we're going to pay ourselves, right? And that allows for investment, right? Especially some of these big things that we're doing. So Okay, so the architecture is form the sub, do the license, and day one, we own 100%. We own 100%. Well, it's our stuff, right? And so so we always say we're the friendliest investor those subsidiaries will ever have. Okay. And Clear is a good example where that structure has allowed us to bring in $8 million of outside investors, and we currently own 58%. Why does that work? Well, because we say to the investor, you know exactly how I'm going to get paid, right?
Right.
We're not going to take all the money, right? It doesn't work. We're going to invest in building an enterprise, and you can depend on us to do it with integrity. And of course, it's fully accountable on our financial statements, of course, right? And so that allowed that to happen. And then it's got its journey. Well, you got to get through FDA, you got to find sales, you got to bring in channel partners, you got to get your first adoption. We're at that stage right now with Clear. We've got first adoption.
Let's talk about Clear. What is Clear?
Well, so the first asset that founded the company was this copper iodine complex. And it has unique characteristics that makes it very potent as an oxidizer. And when it's configured for odor control, right, that's a wonderful claim set of destroying molecules through its chemical reaction. In the medical field, it has a unique custom design to it, right, to qualify for FDA, but it acts as a disinfectant. And so it's been approved through the FDA for what's called a wound irrigation solution. A wound irrigation solution is used primarily in the surgical suite. So as someone's operating, open wound, changing a knee, working on a wound like that, they say irrigate. When they irrigate, they're going to irrigate with our product. Why? Well, because it's going to provide that action in the wound, but it's also laying down an antimicrobial layer that's now been designated as extraordinarily low cytotoxicity. In fact, it gives us a claim of non-cytotoxic. It's at such a low level that it doesn't destroy skin tissue, and it's been approved to leave in the body, right? So it's a non-washout product to leave in the body, which then we have evidence to show that we get up to 3 days residual antimicrobial action in a closed environment. That's extraordinary, okay? And when we cleared the FDA, and I have the privilege because of my role to be part of all these things that are going on, and I was there with all the specialists listening, not saying too much, keeping my mouth shut. And the FDA actually said to us that we presented to them a challenge, and the challenge was that no antimicrobial had achieved such significant results at such low concentration in the history of the FDA. Okay, that's awesome, right? You go, yeah. Oh, yeah. Guess what? Oh my God. You know what that means? They're going to kick our ass. I mean, it's like drilling. And so what happened is they actually forced us through the process to do an extraordinary amount of work. Now, we're thankful, right? So don't miss it. We're thankful. In hindsight, that extra work actually created the competitive advantage. And so there's some wisdom going on over there, right? And at the time, we were really frustrated. We were like, oh my gosh, this will put us out of business. In hindsight, it actually became the most valuable tool in that toolkit to sell the product to the marketplace because all the work was done. Same theme, right? You hear the same theme over and over. And so as a result, the products that have found adoption before us are now, surprise, proving out to be cytotoxic. That means they have systemic issues for long-term chronic use, and they do destroy tissue. And so when you check the box on the antimicrobial of choice for that space, we check all the boxes. We have biofilm efficacy. That means we pierce the biofilm and can break it down. We have safety on tissue. We have long-term efficacy. It continues to act over 3 days of continual antimicrobial activity. There's no systemic reaction. There's no allergic reaction. There's no sensitivity. It's going to do what it's supposed to do without doing harm. Okay. And so then you say, well, why do anything? Right. And the answer is there's a lot of bugs out there. Right. And if you've known anybody that ever had a knee replacement and got an infection, oh my gosh, it is catastrophic. And it has such a significant expense associated with it. So how do you take that innovation and seed it in the market? Right. Well, that's what we're doing. And it's a slugfest. I want you to know it's not easy. So don't think it's like, oh yeah, we got a lock. No. You got to get up every day and you got to go find your way through the jungle. But we are doing it. And we always have, and we will continue, right? So that's the thesis of the business. So in the Clear case, we've got first customers. So, okay, it is commercial. We've cleared FDA. We have all QC specs in place. We have all FDA compliance in place. We have professionals managing that process. We have outsourced manufacturing. Now we have professional salespeople involved, right? And so this is a little sleeping giant. It is capable. That single asset is capable of driving value. In literally, it could go to the billions. I mean, I look at it and I say, this is something that's going to be around forever, okay, because it's so unique and so good. And so our job is to educate, because you educate the market, and then physicians recommend these products. That's kind of the way it works. So you got to educate train the trainer, right?
What do they call the KOLs? The KOLs, those are the right?
Key opinion leaders, right? That's the common strategy. So the way that looks, if you don't know that space, is professionals test, adopt, write about, do experiments, do clinical trials, they publish, and it's that art that actually gains wide adoption, because we're not doctors. We have doctors that work with us, so that's how it goes. But it's really in this first big corporate system that we've got in the hopper. It's not done yet. The gatekeeper in the process is a clinician. Guess what? You get the clinician who gets it, and it's just like this: cha-ching, ding, I got it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is the way the response comes. It's not, oh, this is interesting. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was possible. See?
I mean, for insurance companies, I mean, I'm just thinking off the cuff here. I would think insurance companies would want to incentivize the use of your product in a surgery or in a right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So so this is interesting, and strategy. This goes back to strategy. So how do you find your first? Where's the market for you to land and expand? Right, land and expand and go big. And I think the answer for most innovations, we always say, you go first where someone else is failing, can't do it, or you go where the sensitivity has a high value proposition, right? And so it happens to be in orthopedics. And now there's others, but that's a big one. And if you look at the infection rate of total knees and total hips alone, and you look at the impact of an infection, it's such a negligible cost to deploy a source that helps combat that risk that they need to do it. Right. That's the thesis. It's that simple, because why wouldn't you? If you knew that you could do it without tissue damage, if you knew you could do, and now the proving of that claim is what happens after you get some market share. They come back and they say, my outcomes are better. That's what has to happen. That's not a regulatory claim. That's a claim that clinicians, KOLs make through experimentation. And that's the nature of the beast for medical devices. We also think that some of our portfolio has a future one day in the drug pathway. Okay, we're not pursuing that. We're not financed for that. But when you look at the capability of this science, it has legs that just keep going. Okay, so we have narrowly focused on a very discrete market, with that emphasis in orthopedics is one. The other is a plastic surgery. We also know there's a dental application that's just off the chart, because it can replace a chlorhexidine product. Chlorhexidine is a common ingredient that's widely accepted, and it causes tissue damage often. It has long-term systemic effect that's now being discovered through research. And for teeth, it actually stains teeth. So, right. So again, very great opportunities with massive scale capability. We're not building factories. We're outsourcing to manufacturing. We're not building a national sales organization. We're building a sales staff that supports national rep and channel partners. Okay. And then targets the distribution centers where you go in through a system, on a multi-location system that can be a buyer. And when you get that spot, you've now got a license to sell, and reps come behind you and they make money. You create an engine that feeds the system. And of course, it provides this great value to patients in the end of the day. And I'll tell you that as hard as it's been to get to where we're at and where we're going, that one of the things that's always kept us going is the founder, Ken Code. His dad had a stroke and was confined to a nursing facility, and he was really terrified that his dad was going to get an infection. which is most common, right? And he started this innovation all about that. And it was absorbents and bandages and bed pads and all kinds of really interesting applications. And when I met him, it was that simple, we can help solve this for the world idea that really compelled us to take up a call, right? This idea we're going to go do something really special and then slug away for the next 15 years in your career to figure out how to get it done. But I'll tell you, in the darkest hours of our journey, which right now they're extraordinarily bright, so don't miss that too. We're really happy with where we're at and where we're headed. But when it was hard, super hard, like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? You remember how this technology saves lives. And you go, you know what? It's worth it. We know it's going to save lives and it's going to be all over the world. It's only a matter of time. And so sure enough, that's proven true, right? That's proven true. And now we get to watch the fruit of that. Somebody asks me all the time, say, what does it take? I'm like, well, it's I think the passion to do something important, a driver. I also think there's a certain amount of courage, right? To be out on the front edge every day. And then stubbornness. It's like, you love what you do. You don't take no for an answer, and you just keep plowing. And that's what we've done consistently for 15 years now.
If somebody were to ask you, Dennis, what is your company? What are you guys? Are you guys a clean tech company? Or are you guys environmental? What are you guys?
I think the main thing is environmental. Yeah. We love the medical, of course, but the medical is going to spin out from under the portfolio as soon as it gets its early market traction. And it will. I'm convinced. It's not easy, but it will. It's going to find its market traction. It's happening as we speak.
Would you say maybe you're a solution company?
Solution. Yeah. So innovator solution provider, right? That's the way I like to describe it, because that encompasses a lot. And it's rare to be both. Most innovators are just innovators. Most solution guys are just solution guys. And to do both is a trick, because if you just think about the manpower demands, we've got about 31 people or so in the company, and we've got a bunch of PhDs, a whole bunch of engineers, super smart. And it's a team approach at innovation. And it starts with a customer who says, hey, I need this. And you're like, okay, I need this. And then we say, is our solution somebody else's solution? We go through this analysis. And
but you're not looking at these things. How do I say this delicately?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're not looking at things that are minute or small problems. You're looking at big, hairy problems, right? That have huge addressable markets. You're talking a big TAM. The two things we've talked about now, we're talking about a big water issue that has a massive TAM. I think he's 60 billion.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about this how many staph infections and things, right? From surgeries, and it seems like
billions,
getting worse, billions, right?
It's in the billions, and it works. Yeah.
And that's a billions dollar problem, right?
Well, and even pet odor control. Listen, the number one competitor for our Poof product that we're selling through our partnership with Ikigai, right? Our channel partner. The number one competitor does about 1.2 billion a year. So, this is big business.
And that's now which division does that come from? Poof.
Well, so the odor and VOC is through O&M Environmental, and there's a hint. Their old name was Odor No More, right? And it morphed because being an odor company is limiting. Being an environmental solutions company with VOC and odor control as part of its portfolio is expanding. And so we found such good traction in the market that really our business was morphing to become more than just an odor company. Odor was the tool in the toolkit that had great acclaim, and it does have great acclaim. But we really wanted to become, builders of systems and installers and service contracts and all sorts of really interesting things featuring number one tool for odor and VOC control. And so we did that work, and that's like 8 years of work, and it was a slugfest. As we look back on it, we anticipated a much easier adoption route than we got. It was so difficult. And what we learned in the industrial side is that unless there's a real regulatory or customer complaint problem, a lot of people won't do much about it. And so that's the negative. Right?
There's a difference between a want and a need, right? it's nice to, I mean, you can want something, you'd like that odor to kind of go away. I mean, whatever, but when
Yeah.
you need it to go away, that's a whole different deal, right?
Yeah. So the adoption was slower than we thought, right? So the good news, right? So, and by the way, it's continuing to expand. That organic growth is still happening. We still have national contracts. It's really good, actually. However, it's not going to go to 1 billion. Okay. So what happens as a company? It's not going to go to 1 billion. It's just not. It's not that big of a market. So what you do is you say, look, we've got this. What have we done? Well, we became expert. We know this stuff like the back of our hand. We all facets, safety, how it uses, what to do, what not to do, what it works with, what it doesn't work with, how you make it, how you deploy it, how you service it, all that. And we became expert. And in that journey, then, as we say, preparation meets opportunity. And the group at Ikigai comes to us and says, we think you might have $1 billion product there. And we're like, I know. I mean, it's like, yeah, you think? Oh my God, it's killing me. And so what happens is all that preparation meets opportunity, right? Because what you find in Ikigai is this group that has been doing their craft for 30 years. And they are professional brand creators. They've launched multiple brands like Swiffer and Copperfit and Zevo, which is a natural pesticide, and even Tide and Febreze, okay, with Procter and
Yeah,
Gamble.
but just a few names that might be well recognized.
Big brands, okay?
Right.
And so they came to us and said, we've spent our career, I'm paraphrasing, we've spent our career supporting our customers, and we want to do one that we have a major stake in. And I say, I think we're your Huckleberry. Let's talk about it. And we take risk. We take time, energy, money, resource, and we start working together to form this venture. It's not easy, and it took months, but we there's a give and a take, right? So there's a give and a take. So, and we said we'd love to do this with you. We believe you, right? We believe you, and we're willing to enter into an agreement that gives you an easy runway to success. And by the way, we've done all the work. And again, I don't have to go through the detail, but we've done all the work. We've done all the work. What we need to do with you now is decide how to market that and get it positioned so that the value proposition is clear and convincing, and a call to action can occur in this venue that they create, which they've done. So, and then we bargained to participate early and to participate a little on the royalty and then participate in the exit so that we truly became partners. And so what did they get? Well, they got a chance to work with the number one performing product in the world, and they didn't have to write a check, right? They bargained for that position because of who they are, and they're real. They're really good at what they do. So we said, okay. And so now a year later, right, they're launching in Walmart. They're watching our numbers climb. We get to participate with them. And by the way, we're really good at that. Participate with them on the supply chain means we really do understand that. We brought in professional co-packers with 3PL providers, scaled manufacturing. We also have a brand block is the idea. And a brand block, there's multiple products in the SKU categories that can go into the national retail accounts because they don't want one product, they want a brand.
Right.
And so we're doing that too. And that means a lot of work.
So that's, let's be clear about this. Actually, I could probably go get the bottle. I got it somewhere. The Poof, P-O-O-P-H, right? Which I thought was, well, you guys had on the site. It was a funny commercial, infomercial that you had. I don't know if it's still there, but it was a pretty good one. But I bought the stuff myself, used it here, had a buddy of mine that dropped off his 2 dogs, and my girl had a urinary tract infection. So I was a busy boy on that weekend, and I used it, and it worked. I mean, there was no doubt that it took care of the odor immediately, right? Now, I will say since then I did a little infomercial, or I guess, or a product assessment, and it's amazing how many people have responded to that little 5-minute off the cuff little commercial. But there are a lot of people that have responded to that product and are extremely happy with the product. They weren't happy with the handle. I wasn't happy with the handle. But you've handled that problem.
We
I
handled the
actually
handle.
told you about the handle.
You were
It
right.
wasn't just me, but it was,
Handle the
I
handle.
guess, a few people that told you, and now the handle's been handled, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So when you're in the go mode, which is what's the way it works, go. You're looking for inventory and quick and all that. And then as the muscles come under the deal with success and validation, more resources. And so now it's all custom. Everything's a custom design.
So I
It's
ordered it
beautiful.
from Amazon.com,
Yep.
right? That's where I got it. And then now you just said you're rolling out in Walmart, not Walmart.com. You're rolling out
in
in
the stores.
retail
We don't
stores.
have a lot of detail yet. We will soon, and we're going to try and get
Okay.
that information out to everybody as soon as we have a lot of detail. Because again, it's not, remember, our partner's doing that heavy lift. They're doing that work. And we were just going to give them room. Just go, yes, it's selling now in Walmart. We don't know how many stores. And they have 10,500 stores. So you got to remember, it doesn't happen all at night, overnight. It's going to roll out over the course of some time.
But I think that the key thing that you just said was they're not looking for one bottle. They're looking for a brand, and they're looking for multiple products underneath that brand.
And we can
Right.
deliver that. And that's the beauty of the business. Had we not done all this work over that extraordinary long development cycle, we wouldn't have the ability to offer literally 4, 5, 6, 7 products on a brand block. And we can do them all. And we have patents and all that too, right? And remember, it started out with Ken and this medical thing, and that was for absorbent webs, right? So like bed pads. Well, how about puppy pads? Well, that's pretty cool, right? I mean, it just goes on and on. And what's interesting is I think the main thing is still the main thing, which is that liquid spray, because it's so versatile and easy to use. So it'll always be the main thing. They're experimenting now with a cat litter product. And remember, we had done some early marketing way back and won all kinds of awards. And that product is an award-winning product. And you sprinkle it into a cat litter box, and that cat litter box is not going to stink. I mean, it's unbelievable. It just is amazing how well it works. So that product's being test marketed as we speak. And that's got a chance to be a staple as well in the portfolio. So pretty cool. And there's a laundry additive. There's all kinds of, each is trying to find.
I'm sitting there thinking about all the potential. And this was a company that, if I'm not mistaken, was going around. It was on the garbage trucks, was spraying right.
I'm amazed. The way I would say it is, if you're in the waste handling business, you should be using the product. That doesn't mean they all will, but they should be. I mean, right? And that's the thing on the industrial side. We thought we'd get a lot more adoption than we did, and we are still getting it. So don't, part of it is marketing, part of it is awareness, part of it is people have to care. They have to decide they actually want to do something, and it's so easy to use, and it's not expensive, and it really does work. And we have won some really big accounts. I mean, we're now one of the big municipal clients on the West Coast, probably the second largest on the West Coast. We've secured an exclusive supply agreement for the next 3 years, and then and some big national accounts, all the big names. Here's the thing, though: nobody wants to talk about odor. Nobody wants to talk about odor.
It stinks.
It's like asking, and again, sometimes people have like 5 cats. If they have 5 cats, they probably can't smell them because. Right. And so there's that whole dynamic. And even Febreze, when they launched their product years ago, they launched with a strategy that failed. And they spent about $25 million launching, and they pulled it back, retooled, came back with another 40+ million. That product's now probably a $2 billion a year brand, right? 2 billion. And remember, they used to do the challenge where they had a person blindfolded sit in a really stinky room and they'd spray everything.
Right.
And what that shows you is the complexity of selling an odor product. It's everybody's nose is different. Sometimes noses get burned out because they've been smelling something and they can't smell it anymore. And I'm always amazed. Somebody will say, my litter box doesn't stink. And I'm like, please. It just comes with the territory. And, we did an equine product, and that equine product was a horse product of the year award winner. And horsemen are classic. They go, my horse doesn't stink. And I'm like, well, they kind of poop in the stall. Yeah. I mean, it's not really that, right? Nah, not a problem. So again, what it shows you is you got to find the sweet spot to make a compelling argument.
Yeah, pig farms too, man. Pig farms are like horrible, right? I mean,
We could manage that. Okay, so that's an interesting industry. We spent years plugging away in there, and what we found was that the money trail in that industry is primarily at the brand level, where they're delivering pork at the grocery store with a brand on it in a package. That's where the margin is, right? So the farmer often doesn't have enough margin unless he's regulated to take action to solve an issue that, as far as he's concerned, smells like money. And I'm telling you, I've heard it over and over. Hey, it smelled like money to me. I'm like, it is. Yeah.
It smelled like money to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so, yeah, it is right. It's one of those lessons. And then there was a big deal on the East Coast. One of the states I'm not going to go into detail, but one of the states is one of the largest pig producers in the world. And they set up a state initiative to recruit these operations to their state. And it's big business. It's one of the largest in the world, thousands and thousands of farms. And so they had a big class action suit. And the judgment came down at $400+ million. $400 million. Okay. Well, it was overturned in appeal. And then the industry went to the state and lobbied and said, if you enforce these rules, we're all going to leave the state. Okay, guess what? Those pig farms don't smell anymore. See? And so there's a whole series of things that come to bear, and we are adept at them. We've slugged away for years. Notice, for example, in California, most of the dairy and most of the cattle farming has moved out of state. And notice that at a national level, China is the largest producer of some of these food crops in the world now, right? Because it's hard to operate in the United States on the regulatory scheme.
Because of methane gas and all that other stuff, right?
Of course, environmental impact. So it's complicated stuff, right? Same thing for landfills. The landfills are full. Oh my goodness. We're being recruited now internationally to work on developing waste to energy sites using solid municipal waste as a fuel source, right? To convert to energy. And we've got one of those under contract. We just finished phase 1. Phase 2 will start in the first part of 2023, and the numbers are going to go up dramatically, right? So we go from preliminary to design and preliminary design. So the next phase will be worth a few $1 million to us, which is good in revenue. You have to do the work. Don't forget that. And then that same customer, which is a developer, came to us and has proposed that we get involved in 4 to 6 more as a phase 1 that'll also go to phase 2. The point of that is we are at the center of all these things. They're all environmental. They involve energy, they involve water, they involve earth. And
right.
we're quote technical experts. And those examples, we're also doing this design work for a portable modular nuclear power plants, okay, for a venture-backed firm. And you think, how in the world, and really for me, how in the world do we land there? What they recognize in us is this talent pool and this can-do sort of spirit that and a commitment to integrity that's very attractive. I mean, if you want this stuff done, we're the guy you call. You know why? Because we're not going to mess around. We don't have time. We're going to say, look, here's what you need to do. Here's why we think you need to do it. No, we want to do it different. We're like, well, that's going to fail. And listen, if we predict failure, we're not going to do it. We're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're out of that one. That was going to fail. And
right.
so that's,
I'm listening to you, and I know what if the investors or the stock guys are going to be looking at it, it's like, man, all of this sounds unbelievably amazing, right?
Yeah.
Why isn't it reflected in the stock price?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's the $1 million question, right? It should be, right? It should be. So we would argue, obviously, we believe the current valuation is low. And we think that the evidence to support anticipated growth is at hand. It's not like, hey, I'm going to get some revenue, we're going to grow. It's already happening. The deals in the hopper now represent exponential growth. Okay. And the evidence is showing up every quarter, right? And so it's going to keep going. That's one. The second is people want is that drive-by. They want a drive-by look, flying by at Mach 3. Boom, boom, looking down, boom. Okay, you can't do that with Biolargo. You're like, what is it? Oh, well, okay, no, it's not going to work. You're going to have to do a little deeper dive. We'll see some analyst coverage coming out, which we think is very important. That'll help distill it down. We have long interviews because there's so much to talk about. Okay, but the people that do the deep dive, they buy and hold. They buy and hold. Why? Well, because they just know it's a matter of time. It's only a matter of time until we hit sort of this exponential curve, which we're already witnessing happen. And so I think it is a moment at which part of it is to get the message out and make sure people do that deep dive. The other is financial performance is critical, and we finally have that, right? But we didn't have it for a long time. I'll give everybody.
And that's, when you say 15 years, we've been working on this product, right? I mean, that's a long time.
Oh my gosh, it's just about ridiculous.
When you're sitting there and you're listening to it and you're going, yeah, this is a massive TAM. Adoption, and I will go back, adoption. I was just talking to somebody prior to when we jumped on the call, and I said, a lot of times CEOs have this vision in their head that, man, this just is such a simple, everybody is going to want this, everybody's going to adopt this. It doesn't always work that way. Adoption, a lot of times, takes time, right? It doesn't happen overnight. Very rarely do you see it happen overnight. Unless it's like mandated, right? If it's mandated, you don't have a choice. You gotta do it. But if it's not mandated, people take the sweet time to adopt to things.
So I think the argument, I agree, but by the way, you're exactly right, Tim. I mean, you got it right on the nail on the head. I got a chance to listen to the chairman at Allergan talk about their journey, right? And he said they started in a little pharmacist in Orange, California, over Main Street with this genius guy fixing up formulas. I mean, it's just crazy. And then you fast forward. He said it took 10 years to do the first $1 million. He says from that 10-year point forward, they returned $70 billion to the shareholders. $70 billion. Okay, so what's up with Biolargo? If we didn't think these assets have billions of potential, we wouldn't be doing it. And so what's unusual is to have so many. Right? It's like, well, how can that be? It's like, well, this is what we do. We are innovators looking for the edge, willing to take risks.
And it's not as though you're making claims that aren't backed by things like the FDA.
Or science, third-party peer reviewed. Yeah, one of our water technologies, which is a booger to get commercial, but we will. And we have that big partnership with Garrett Callahan. Two big deals. Those are going to go big deals too.
So repeat that second part, the partnership with
Callahan. Yeah, we've got this relationship with Garrett Callahan, and it didn't launch as fast as we want, right? And so everybody's like, "Oh, it must be failing." I'm like, "No, it's not failing. It's just everybody's busy, including Garrett Callahan. So sit tight for a minute. They're going to find the first market, and we're going to go." And so nobody knows whether to believe that. I get it. Okay, but that is what it is. There's nothing bad happening. What's happening is everybody's busy, and this is a lesson, right? When you find a partner. Think about the Ikigai partner. We're the only thing they do. And they're very skilled at what they do, right? Okay, so that's a winner. When you talk about Garrett Callahan, they're doing 100 other things. So why are they going to divert resources from one to another? Well, the answer is because there's a need in the market. And so what we have to do and what their team has to do is make it really easy.
Right.
Okay. And it's not easy yet. Okay, so that's the answer. It's not easy yet. It will get easy, but it's not easy yet. So the first one's the hardest, the second one's a little easier, and the third, and then 10, and then all of a sudden, guess what? It's easy, and they can print money, and they can solve issues for customers with confidence and no fear. Okay, and we come into that situation with a really deep comprehension of that. I mean, we know, right? So when we present to Garrett Callahan, we say, look, we will provide assurance. These customers are not going to lose. We're going to. And I remember at the closing, we put the relationship together. I said, we'll take the hardest cases in the market. We'll love your customer more than you. And if you need anything, all you got to do is call. Why make it more complicated? It's that simple. And of course, we have the technical horsepower and the commitment to back that up, right? And that works. That works in the marketplace. Again, you go back to custom and solution driven and all these things that really do pan out in the marketplace. So the trick in all of this is to as we find the big winners, right, is to put the others into the channel, like Cleara. Cleara needs to spin out. It's going to spin out when it has first market traction, not before, right? Now you'd be begging. We don't want to be begging. We want people clamoring, and they're going to be clamoring one day. They're going to go, holy cow, I could have bought it and it was so cheap. Yeah, well, we incubated it. Now it's going to go. Same thing with the PFAS. It's early. It's going to be mature. As it gets to maturity, it's going to grow exponentially. The same thing really for some of these other assets like Poof. Poof is an example. It's happening right in front of us. You say, well, there's all this risk. What are we talking about risk? Right, that you can't sell it? We've already answered that question. That people don't like it? Are you kidding me? This product is the #1 performing product in its category in the world, and it's safe, and it's not going. And so the value proposition is very clear and convincing. These people our partners happen to communicate that to a consumer level in such an effective way that it's an easy buy decision. And the other thing, I want to say, our shareholders, they should all go buy it. Are you kidding me? If you haven't tried it, go get it. It's incredible. It really does work. And scientifically, it's foolproof. Okay.
Let's break this down for a second though, because, and you clarified this with me before we jumped on, right? I mean, it does work for me because I used it that weekend with the puppy and my girl, and look, my house smells fantastic, right? No issues. However, since I did my little product review, I have one person out of a lot of people that said, hey, it doesn't work at all, I'm sending it back. And I wanted a clarification. I was like, well, is it the handle that doesn't work, or is it the product? Because the handle I can understand, the product I can't, right? Because it worked. I literally am shocked that I had anybody say that. So when she came back, she said, no, it's the product. And I said, well, I am shocked by that. I'm meeting with the CEO. I'm going to tell him. I'm going to talk to him about it.
Of course. Hey, those are fighting words, buddy. No. So red alert. Look, so I got a funny story for you.
It's a biologic, if it's not a biologic, if it's not some type of a biologic that gets broken down, right?
Well, if it's organic. So the concept
organic, yeah.
These are products, mineral in composition, right? Mineral in composition. And it's an oxidizer, right? So what it does is when it comes in contact with organic matter, the science is foolproof. It's going to oxidize. That's it. So in other words, it can't not work. It can't not work. In other words, it's going to work every time. So why would it not work? Well, there's a couple things. One, it could be the solution you're attacking is such a big one that you haven't hit it with enough volume. That's one. The second could be maybe just what you're trying to accomplish is out of the box, right? And so what is that, right? And so we have a good example, shoes that you've been wearing for 6 months with no socks. Okay. You might want to throw those away and start over. Okay. Now, would our chemistry break them down and make them like new? Sure, but you're going to need a lot of chemistry. You're probably going to need some physical action. You might have to wash them 4 times. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how nasty they are. But you can't hit a mountain with a pea shooter.
Right. Okay. And that makes 100% sense, right?
And we got a funny example in the industrial side. Because we've seen everything, right? And we'll get a call from a customer who'll say, your product's over here and it's not working. And so our first response, right in our brain is not possible. Okay, what's up? And then we go over there and it turns out the machine's unplugged. We're like, you do have to plug in the machine. You can't. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Really? I mean, it's crazy. So look, the science is bulletproof. Okay. The science is bulletproof. And if somebody says it's not working for me, I say, come on, let's figure it out. We're happy to dig in. No problem. So.
Right. Okay. So the size of the problem, it's like, I guess if and we'll just use the example of if a cat is peeing in the same spot for 10 years in the corner of one room, odds are
start over. Well, so for example, carpets are interesting, and I'm not a carpet expert, okay, but think about it. It's carpet, it's a pad, and it's concrete probably. And if the concrete's porous, it may have seeped into 3 inches down in the concrete. So you're talking about saturation. So that's fine. If you want to saturate it, our stuff will get it, but you got saturated. You can't hit the surface and go 3 inches deep. You got to go 3 inches
You
deep.
got to soak the whole area. You got, like, you've been doing it for 8 years, right?
Probably right. Yeah. So sometimes we say start over and then test me, because
Right.
maybe prevention is a little, ounce of prevention worth a pound of, cure. So
All right. So listen, I think we've established the fact that you have, several, not just one, but several opportunities for some mega home runs,
yeah,
right?
we do.
And we are, and I would you say that you are, I mean, you actually just had, like I said, you just reported 2 nice quarters, and you don't see that slowing down.
I don't know. I think what we communicate is the engineering side has lumpiness to it. It's on and slow and up and slow, but it's growing, and it's going to grow exponentially. It'll be multiples, and mostly. And the way we think about that is, if you just look at the relationships in place, the way, think about this: customer calls up and says, "Hey, we're going to do this thing." Okay, is that a guarantee? No. What they're saying is, we're going to start Q3 or Q1, and here's the budget, and we scope it and bid it and price it, and they capital allocate for it. And then, 90% of the time those come to bear and you go 90%. What happens on 10%? Well, their capital budget changes, or we're going to push it to the next quarter. I mean, that happens all the time. That's the nature of capital budgets. And these are big projects. They're in the millions, millions to 5 and 10 million. These are big deals. So some of that lumpiness is part of the game. So you need a diverse selling profile, which we have, to even that lumpiness out. And and we're growing into it. We're not there yet, but we're going into it. On the Poof side, which is more straight line, the more they spend, the more they sell. And now they got big national footprint with Walmart's going to expand over time. They're going to be testing very carefully to make sure that they get the sell through. And that's advertising driven, which they're experts at, to create that brand awareness. And then they've got two other big national accounts coming on in the first half of 2023. So literally big national footprints. I mean, this is the big time. They're in,
Right.
And we're in the money stream with them. And we love this. We love the team at Ikigai. I want to say that unequivocally. There's always this go, and it's intense. And it's a push and a pull constantly. I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen some. It's intense, but they're doing what they said, and we say thank you, right? Yeah, amen. Let's go. Let's do this thing, right? And they're doing it, and so that's going to keep going. And so it'll be interesting to see how big and how fast. To build a national brand in a couple of years is pretty remarkable, and I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to be in a spot clicking off $100 million run rate. And everybody and their mother's going to buy that stuff. You watch. And we're going to say, amen, sell it. Let's go. We'll get a big check. Everybody will be happy.
Let me ask you, Dennis, in this environment,
yeah,
the big concern I would say with micro cap, small cap is anybody that is in need of financing, because in this environment, this is not a good, if you are a smaller micro cap, you are not going to get a good deal. I mean, you're going to get
on traditional financing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be. I predict. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I predict it'll be unconventional financing that'll get us through. The reason I say that is we're a powerhouse wrapped in a micro cap company, okay, and I believe it like to the heart of my soul. Okay, I mean, this is. The things that we have to deal with at OTC at this level, and the changing regulatory environment and the commercial and the capital markets is so brutal, and we will overcome all that. And our assets deserve top shelf. These are the real deal, okay? And people say, yeah. I'm not telling you they're the real deal. So these are billion-dollar markets in the making. We believe they're capable. And yes, we need adoption, and yes, we need partners, and all the things that we're witnessing happen at the level currently with Poof and with PFAS, multiply times 50, right? I mean, it all has to happen to get to that mark. Okay, can it? Oh, absolutely. Why? Well, because the innovations are all so unique. They are, and the thesis has been always the same, where we're going to go big, and we're going to invest the kind of time, energy, money, resource. They better have a chance to be number one, or don't do them. And we got multiple number ones, multiple. So then how do you exploit it? Well, there's going to be a natural sorting out, right? PFAS is probably going to go really big, okay? And so then you say, well, do we continue to odor and VOC? Well, yeah, I mean, we've got scale now, right? We're nationally sourcing. I mean, this is the epitome of the business plan coming to action. Same thing with Clyra. Are we going to be the world's greatest infection control? No, Clyra is, and we're going to own a big chunk of it. Okay, and we're going to get a royalty from it. See, that's the model. We're not going to be that. We're going to enable that to happen. And that's why we can do it, right? That's why you look at it. So once in a while, a critic will say, oh, the revenues are so small. I said, yeah, that's the first revenues on the way to $1 billion. I'm not going to apologize. I know how hard it is to get these things seeded in the market, and we're doing it. We're doing it every day. When you talk to innovators, people that have been in, I have this one story. It's a classic in the water business. One of the head of EPA looks me in the eye and says, if you're going to be an innovator in the water business, you better have something else that's making money. Like, oh my gosh, did you hear that? Okay, what are they saying? They're saying it's like virtually impossible. Okay, so we're taking on some big challenges. We're out impacting the world for good with something that's really special. Now, are we going to win? I believe we're winning, and I believe we will continue to win. And we've just scratched the surface of the potential of that space. What do we have to do? My God, we had to go vertical. We had to become a solution provider. We had to recruit talent that's been doing it for 30 years to be able to go into the marketplace with credentials to seat the technology in the market. We had to do the frickin' work. That's what we're doing. And it's worthy, right? It's worthy because the opportunities are so massive, and we're really positioned to see exponential growth through partnership. And so we always say, lean in, right? Lean into the partners, make sure they're good ones, because we've had some that have not been so good, right? So you got to make some good choices and protect yourself if they're not going to do their end of the bargain. So the risk of that, and the reason, one of the reasons it's taken us so long, is because it's really hard to get people to carry the ball the rest of the way, right? And so that's the trick, right? Like we end up waiting for the partner to do their end of the bargain, okay? And so what makes them do that? Well, it has to be easy. It's like the medical field, reps. Listen, reps.
It has to be easy. That's a very appropriate way of putting it. It has to be easy, right? Because if it's challenging,
yeah, if you're a rep, think about it. You get up in the morning, you look at your bag and your portfolio of your opportunities. Where are you going to spend all your time? You're going to spend your time where you make money. Okay, so that rep needs to know we're a money maker, and it's a lock, and it's got recurring revenue, and it gets established in accounts. They do a heavy lift, they make money for the next 4 years. That's the trick. The trick is to be able to get that done, and that's what we're doing. That's why it takes so long. But man, when it goes exponential, and that's what we're witnessing with Poof, and that's what we'll witness next with PFAS. And I predict the same thing with Clyra. It's just
how far away are you on Clyra? Do you feel?
Well, we've managed to support it financially with our resources, which is great, and it has had outside investors. It's going to need some capital, right? And so it'll focus on. It's got its own resources. It's got first sales, and it's got reps signing up. And so, assuming all that stays intact, which it should, right? We don't look. Biolargo is committed to making sure it wins, right? So we're in for the haul. We're the friendliest investor ever in Clyra Medical. I think 2023, we're going to start watching some significant sales start to accumulate. That would be my prediction. So the next year is going to be a great year for Clyra. And remember, in that business, it's a high margin proposition, high value, high margin, right? And it's high value, high margin because it took you so long and so much money to get through. That's the nature of the beast. And once you get a market share, it can run for decades. It doesn't just disappear, right? You seat yourself in the market, in the minds of the people that make the decisions to choose the best. And then you have to market that best category. And if you do that in a reasonable fashion, you get extraordinarily high valuations. There's a competitor in the space with what we would call an inferior technology. And on sales of about 2.5 million, they went to 150 million market cap. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Couple $1 million, you got a couple $100 million in market cap. And then what happens is the strategic partners come in. It has to be easy, right? It has to be easy, but it folds right into their call pattern, right? They're already there. This is a high value proposition to help avoid infection. Come on, really? Why wouldn't you do it? Well, there's others. Well, no, the others don't do what this does. You can't leave them in. You got to wash them out. They're toxic. No, It's not the same. So think about it. That's what has to happen. You have to be able to educate. And when you can educate, you can get them to make a different decision. That's the game. And we're going to win it. We're going to win it.
So let me pound on a couple of things here. We were talking before we jumped on the call. Your philosophy is that everybody in the organization, Biolargo, all the way down to the guy that's cleaning the toilets, should have a piece and a stake in the company.
Oh yeah,
right.
No question.
Because
we do that. Yeah, we do that automatically. We have a retention program that we have. It's published in our filings, and it's a percentage of their compensation goes into warrant packages that vest over time. And so what that means is eventually they're going to accumulate quite a bit of value in their ownership over time for sticking with the job, doing retention. And if they ever decide to leave, they're going to leave a bunch behind. So it better be worth it. I mean, it's great, and I think it's a smart move. And then the other is, we're a company that honors people, right? We honor for real. We honor people, and everybody has a contribution to make here, and they're very good at what they do. So it's unique, and it has a culture of cooperation, teamwork. The engineers in particular are owners. They're owner operators, right? They have a schedule to earn their position. They share in profit sharing. They're not hired guns. And I asked one of our engineers one time, I said, how does this work? And they said, go get in your cubicle. I'm like, no, none of that here. No, in fact, it's the opposite. How it works here? What do you think we should do? And they'll tell you. And you know what? You better listen. I asked one of our senior engineers, I said, I've seen these big firms that blow up and have trouble and all this. What's up with that? Just imagine this conversation. He's been doing it for 40 years. He says, somebody sold something, they didn't know what they were selling. Somebody sold something, right? And somewhere along the way, the guy in charge had misplaced incentives. He's hitting quarterly numbers at the expense of the 4-year curve, and they're going to pay later. Okay, we'll have none of that at Biolargo. That is not going to happen. I mean, I look at it and I go, well, now maintaining that culture when you go big that's a trick. But I'm telling you, that's what we're doing. And I look at it and I say, no, there will be none of that. We're not going to, under no circumstances. So, it makes it sound like the law. It's not the law. The strategy is to be clear and say, no single deal bets the farm. We don't need that kind of risk. We're going to be slow and methodical, but we're going to build mass. We're going to seek leverage off technology assets that do something great. That's what we're doing. It's not that complicated. Okay. It's hard to do, though. I'll tell you, it's hard to do. It's easy to say, and it's really difficult. So the beauty in this company is we've weathered the adoption cycle to now see the fruits bear out with seeds. They're prospering, they're growing more fruit, and it's just expanding. So if we were a private company, I can't imagine what our valuation would be. I mean, it'd be a lot more than where we're at today.
It's interesting that you say that, because recently, in the last few months, the more CEOs I speak with, there are quite a few that are like, I don't know why I ever went public, because if I went back to private, my valuations would be significantly more than what they are in the public markets. And I think a portion of that is that Wall Street also is kind of broken, right? In many respects. I mean, they're back in my day. I'm old enough to remember when analysts actually covered stocks or covered companies because they were new and had new technologies, or knew that these guys would take a risk and go out there and analyze the company, analyze the need, and then put a price target on a company. Now, the only way you're going to get coverage from an analyst is if you do a financing deal through them, right? And
it's hard to find independence for sure. And then second is, they've got a financial machine to operate too. So we get it. I think we didn't really dig into detail, but I think non-traditional financing will be the thing that carries our ball, because the underlying value of the assets is far greater than the market. I mean, really, listen, you could make an argument that our PFAS alone is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Right? It's an argument. And you have to defend that thesis, but really think about it. We're already getting market traction. We got big distribution network set up. We've already got first customer adoption. Now there's more to do. You got to get multiple reference sites. You got to be in the game a little longer. But so we get that. But the reality is, when you look at the incumbents and the competitors, they're getting significant valuations and they're not nearly as far along as we are. Now they're not mark to market. They're not at the whim of somebody who needs their money and is willing to sell cheap, which is what happens. You watch somebody selling at this level and you think, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? Really? Just hold on a minute. But that's the nature of the beast, right? It's the nature of the beast. And that's why it's so hard to be there. Now, we don't have any intention of going private. So let's be clear. That's not our goal. We care about our investors in a way that most companies have a hard time doing. And so part of our mandate is to reward them. And I can't underemphasize. We want to reward them. We want to see this grow and prosper, create real tradable value, create a real national market, and do so because the business deserves it. It's real simple.
Dennis, would you say you're the closest to a lot of these things coming to fruition than you have?
Ever. No question. Are you kidding me? No question.
Right. So let me just from a technical standpoint, I go over the chart here real quick, and I will show you something that's pretty interesting, because from 2008 on, the trend has been from really the upper left to the lower right, and it's been painful, right? You've had some nice rallies in between. 2014, you had a nice rally. 2017, it looks like you had a nice rally. You're not looking.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
2014, 2017, right? Big spikes. But to the naked eye, anybody can see it. The trend is from the upper left to the lower right. But here's the really interesting thing that has just happened. This right here. You broke and you closed above that long term, and I'm talking multi-year. When you have the longer the trend line, the more powerful the trend line, the more strength it has. And that only makes sense because things gain momentum, right? Over duration. When you break a long-term trend line from a technical perspective, that is that's a big break. And now let's think about when you did this. In an environment where there was a pandemic, but now we're in a war with supply chain issues and all this other stuff going on, and inflation, and the world's coming to an end. All of this stuff is happening, and you broke that pattern. So, and you held above it. So what's interesting now is this could be the beginning of a different long-term trend.
Yeah.
Right. One that goes from the lower left to the upper right for multiple years. I mean, that is, I cannot emphasize enough how big of a deal breaking a long-term trend like this is.
Yeah.
So
most people don't survive long enough.
And if you notice, here's the other interesting thing. All this volume, right? It's not as though this is happening on low volume. You're getting some volume in it as well, which just on top kind of confirms that people are recognizing the story.
Yeah.
Right. They're recognizing it and they're participating. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go back to and go lower, and anything's possible in the stock market. I can tell you that anything's possible, but I will suggest to you that this is showing strength in what has been a very challenging market, right?
I agree.
And the opportunity, just listening to everything that you said and just seeing what's happening with Poof. You just announced, you're in Walmart. You don't know how many stores.
Yeah.
And you know what? It doesn't matter. The fact that you're there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
The product works. I know it does. I used it myself.
Yeah.
Right? It does work.
Well, the other thing too, I'll point out, even at that big spike at the inception, right? So we acquired the technology in the spring of 2007. And remember what happened in 2007, 2008. I mean, right? And I won't give you the whole war story because it just doesn't matter, right? But when we started the company, we had 3 big licensing deals on the table prior to the reverse into Biolargo to become known as Biolargo. And all of those fell apart, every one of them, one by one. And we watched some of the biggest companies in the world, lay off 10,000 people in a day. I mean, it was just a bloodletting period of time. And had we, so go back to the rationale. When we closed the transaction, we anticipated short-term revenue and prosperous season. Otherwise, we wouldn't have closed the way we did. Then we found ourselves in a market reset with the housing crisis, and with technology, with no customers, and not fully developed products. I mean, right? It's like, oh my gosh, and here we go. And then we had to figure that out. And so, I think a lot of people probably would have quit, right? It's like, okay, all right, sorry, didn't work. So the difference is that we have investors. We always say we love our investors. I mean, we love our investors, not just little, a lot. Okay. And the people that stick with us, we really want to make sure they win. So we behave in that way. We're very careful, and we raise enough money to do what we need to do, not more, not big slugs. And we're frugal, right? We do a lot with a little. And so it bears out. Now, the challenge is also getting through that adoption cycle. So the good news is we're now going to watch a period of rising up in revenue, rising up in cash flow. And we want to be careful to preserve the market values. And I think its fundamental underlying value is the sum of its parts. And when you do the sum of the parts, it's worth a lot more than 50 or 60 million dollars. I mean, this is a big deal. So it's our job now to convince the world that that's true, right? And how do you do that? Well, part of it is to get the story out. The other part is continue validation, more partnerships, and then, ultimately financial performance. That's the bottom line. You got to perform. So, yeah, I think your interpretation is right, and we're going to do everything in our power to deliver that.
Yeah, I mean, look, anything could happen. That was a weekly time frame that I was. So each candle represented a week. Now I'm on the daily. The daily is not as is as convincing as that weekly was.
Yeah,
because you just broke the 200-day moving average, which is a big deal for a lot of day traders, and right. So right now, but you did have the golden cross over here, which is the 50-day that's crossing above the 200-day moving average. That's a good thing. You don't want the 50-day to go back below the 200-day, because that's called the death cross, and that's never a good thing. But if you could, you've got some support. I guess this is what I suggest, and I don't tell anybody to buy or sell a stock. That's not what I do. What I do is I collect the facts, and I get to know the management, and I follow the story, and I see if they execute. That's really what it comes down to.
Sure.
Right. And you have done what you said you're going to do. It has taken longer, and it always does. I mean, I don't know if anything in life.
I know. I get it. I
Right?
mean, I get it. Absolutely. It's unbelievably difficult. And it is really something. And overcoming, right? The success is overcoming all the failures. That's what we do.
That's what it is. And as long as you do what you say you're going to do, right? And you say, look, you've been talking about the PFAS thing. It hasn't become, but it's all of it's moving in that direction.
Machine's running. Same thing with Clear. Clear is 8 years of work. 8 years of work. Are you kidding me? I mean, I can't even believe it. And I remember sitting there with, again, the regulators thinking, this is the craziest system I've ever seen in my life. And then when you're done, right, you look back and you go, smart people really prepared us to now compete in a market and deliver something of extraordinary value. So now we have to educate and critical mass. I mean, think about that. Just the regulatory process is like a whole business. Now you got another business to go sell it. Right. So again, all these assets have a similar lifespan. I'd say we're probably better than we've ever been before at the compression of that. Okay. But it has taken a long time. And also we have a team of people that are fully vetted, right? They're not rookies. Right. These are not kids. These are people that have been doing the things they do for a career, and they're really good at it. And so now, right, that focus, okay, so the main thing is the main thing. What's that? PFAS, main thing. What Garrett Callen's the main thing, right? But they're going to do the selling. We're going to be contract manufacturing and supporting customers. Come on. It's a great business. It's a great business. They're going to do the heavy lifting on the selling. We're not. So, and then of course, the Poof product is, we're managing the flow of a whole bunch of subcontracted work. And so it's a lean organization, but doing, mighty good in its revenue and its cash flow generation. So that's a great example of the licensing model coming to bear, plus manufacturing, right? So anyway,
All
it's a
right,
great, it's a
so
great
Dennis,
season.
let's wrap this up. Is there
All right.
anything that you feel as though I didn't highlight or we didn't cover that you feel is you really want to stress the point on?
No, I think it's great. The technology, I always say, trust the technology, right? At the end of the day, it's going to pass the test of time, and they're unique, right? So our job is to foster an environment in which they can thrive. That's what we're doing. And then as the winners emerge with big margin and volume, you become increasingly selective. That's just the way it works. And we're doing that. We're doing it now. It's one of the reasons we talk about these catalysts the way we do.
So what milestones should investors or potential investors, what should they be looking for?
Well, I think right now it's the execution of what we've already got, right? So we've got PFAS customers, some in the queue, so we'll get more. We'll get reference sites. We'll bring in more strategic partners in there, so that'll end up with milestones. The Poof product's going to land in Walmart. It's going to start hitting some big numbers, and then we'll have another one and another one, and it'll be on a march. I mean, it's going to replicate. It's a good spot, and so we're going to see numbers climbing, and that I think it'll climb pretty aggressively for the foreseeable future. And then it'll result one day in us getting a big check. Hey, congratulations. I'm wiring you $50 million. Oh, well, thank you very much.
Let's talk about real quickly. I know I've heard on calls, people are always pressing you about going to the NASDAQ, right? Or senior exchange, right?
Right.
And your position on that is, listen, we're not going to the NASDAQ until we're ready to go to the NASDAQ.
Well,
right?
that's for sure. For sure. I mean, especially now, right? I mean, think about all these companies that are getting hammered up there, right? I mean, it's just terrible. And so, it's a trading environment. It's not an investing environment, right? So you need to rely upon investors and you need to rely upon execution before you play the game up there, because be careful what you wish for, as they say. And so we understand that. We also don't want to do anything dramatic to achieve that. Now, the counter argument is simple, and that is 98% of the world's money can't invest in an OTC company. So You're limited to this trading pool, and you suffer some because of that small market position. So the balance in all of that is, and the way we say it is, I want to see us at a national market when the wind is fully in our sails, stretched to the max, pulling us up with revenue in the hopper or in the boat, and more coming with confidence, so that we don't need a national market to survive. We leverage a national market to create a market for our stockholders.
And I will just tell you that I am in 100% agreement with that philosophy.
Yeah.
Because going to the NASDAQ does not solve all your problems.
No.
I understand the OTC is thinly traded. I mean, it can be challenging and tough.
Right.
But you know what? If you are not executing and firing on all cylinders, and your sales are full, and there is no sign of a slowdown, the big boys start getting involved. The funds, listen, they can make your life miserable, right? I mean, as much as they can make your life a dream come true, they can make your life miserable. So you want to have everything, all I's dotted, all T's crossed, and just, a well-oiled machine, right?
I'd like to uplist when we don't need any money. How's that?
Huh?
I'd like to uplist when we don't need any money.
That's the perfect time to do it, right?
That would be the goal, and I think we got a good shot at that, by the way. And again, if you see us through the filter of an OTC stock, and that's your vision of what our company is, you're missing it. So the company's much deeper and bigger and bolder than that. And so we'll emerge. We didn't spend our careers.
And then we didn't even talk about it really, but I mean, there's always that opportunity or that possibility that somebody wants to come and buy out.
Yeah,
or buy out one of your divisions.
Right. Well, they're built to each sell, right? So that's probably more likely. At today's valuation, it wouldn't even be in the realm of possibilities.
That's
the way we would think about it. It's like, you better really get a big checkbook, because no. But we try to be realistic to create value for shareholders. But if you want a 2x or a 3x, I'm probably not, we're probably not your guy. I'd like to see a much bigger play than that.
Right.
Much. Again, if we didn't think like our PFAS solution, if we didn't think that could be $1 billion in revenue. Now look, we've caveated that. You can't, I'm not suggesting it's going to happen overnight. There's all these things that have to happen to make something like that work. But it is certainly capable. The innovation is capable of doing that. We have people that are capable of doing that. Same thing with Clear. Same thing with the Poof. Right, the Poof product is a lever. It's a lever that shows the potential. Right, you say, "Oh, come on, man, come on!" Right? Okay, we're competing with a product that's about 1.2 billion, and we're better. It took them 40 years. Okay. So again, dose of reality. They didn't do that overnight. That's a massive brand that they've been around for a long time. And so a lot of smart people had to come alongside and make that work to get to that level. But we've got smart people and we've got smart partners. And so what'll happen is we're gonna partner our way to the billion, right? So how's that look? We're gonna get it to 100 million, get a multiple, and let them rip. Let them rip. Go at it, man. And I like that business model. I like that. Same thing with PFAS. We don't have to be the world's greatest PFAS solution provider. We're gonna innovate, find traction, make the deal, and see it happen. And that means sharing. That means share with a lot of partners. So if you take that strategy, the world is our oyster, and that's the way we think about it. I get up every day, and I've got more customers than we're really ready to swallow. Okay, so we got a tiger. We got multiple tigers by the tail. So it's a good time to take a deep dive.
Listen, Dennis, I'm glad that I want to thank you for coming in and doing this. And, what I'm telling everybody is this: there is an area of potential support that the stock is pulling back to right now, somewhere around 13. Wait a minute. No, that's what? 15. That's 19 cents. 19 cents. There's a little area of support right there. And then there's another area of support right about 17 cents, right? So listen, here's the thing. If you don't want to buy it right now today, at least put it on your watch list, right? And Dennis, you've got Biolargo. Let me bring that back up over here. Where is that? So you guys have an investor relations portion on your site. You can sign up for email alerts, right?
Oh yeah.
Is it email alerts or is it a newsletter?
Newsletter. We do a few emails a month, one or two, maybe three, and then we send out the current summaries of
anything that you guys have going on, any SEC filings or any other stuff that's going on, you guys are sending out to the investor, right? So you go to the website, sign up, put these guys on your radar, keep an eye on the story, and see if they continue to deliver, and watch this Poof. I tell you, if you got pets, go buy some Poof, man, because it works.
Ask about it. Go to Walmart and ask them, hey, when are you gonna have Poof?
Exactly. All right, Dennis. Look, when you have some other some new developments, we'll have you. Hey there, all you stock market junkies. Thanks for tuning in to yet another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. Today we had Biolargo Inc., ticker symbol BLGO, CEO Dennis Calvert. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, why not give us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.